Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Konrad Gorlinski. Well, there's increased disunity on the part of the Polish opposition about how the migration crisis on Poland's border with Belarus should be handled. A rift is opening on the matter between former Prime Minister Donald Tusk and representatives of the Left Party. In a recorded statement, Donald Tusk, the leader of the largest opposition party, Civic Platform, stated that a national consensus needs to be reached regarding the group of a couple dozen African and Middle Eastern migrants that have created a makeshift camp on the Belarusian side of the border after having been denied entry by Polish border guards. When the conflict in Ukraine broke out, I was Prime Minister at the time. I invited all opposition leaders and we sat down at one table, including Jarosław Kaczyński, to discuss how Poland could jointly deal with this dramatic challenge. Today, I expect exactly the same from the authorities, and I am ready for such a conversation. I'm convinced that I can say these words on behalf of the entire opposition. The left disagrees with Tusk speaking on its behalf and strongly disassociates itself from the former prime minister's position. Donald Tusk was not authorized by anyone other than the Civic Platform to speak on behalf of the opposition. As far as I know, he has not spoken to either the left or other opposition groupings, so he cannot speak on our behalf. Internal tensions within the left may also be the reason for such a strong reaction. Some of its members are focused exclusively on anti-government rhetoric, while others are willing to enter into a dialogue on specific issues with the law and justice government. The Left Party wants to show that it is a separate force in the opposition, and that it cannot be lumped in together with the Civic Platform Party, the Polish People's Party, or Polska 2050. The position of the liberal left is different from what the EU, and especially Germany, present today, notes the columnist Rafał Ziemkiewicz. They haven't noticed that at this moment there is no consent in the West for this stance. It's not 2015 anymore, it's not open borders now, it's go home. The Polish border guards have recorded more than 3,000 attempted illegal crossings of Poland's border with Belarus this summer. U.S. President Joe Biden has addressed the nation after Thursday's double bombing attack against the Kabul airport, which claimed the lives of at least 90 people, including 13 U.S. military personnel. In his speech, President Biden vowed the United States would hunt down those responsible for the twin explosions and said he asked the Pentagon to develop plans to strike back at them. Biden spoke hours after the blasts killed at least a dozen American troops and scores of civilians. The worst day of casualties for U.S. forces there in a decade. Islamic State Khorasan, or ISIS-K, an affiliate of the Islamist terror group which previously battled U.S. forces in Syria and Iraq, has claimed responsibility for the attack.
A tough day. This evening in Kabul, as you all know, terrorist attacked that we've been talking about and worried about, that the intelligence community has assessed, has undertaken an attack by a group known as ISIS-K. Took the lives of American service members standing guard at the airport and wounded several others seriously. He had also wounded a number of civilians, and civilians were killed as well. To those who carried out this attack, as well as anyone who wishes America harm, know this: we will not forgive. We will not forget. We will hunt you down and make you pay. I will defend our interests and our people with every measure at my command.
President Biden promised that U.S. evacuations would continue. He gave no indication of a change in next Tuesday's U.S. pullout target.
We will not be deterred by terrorists. We will not let them stop our mission. We will continue the evacuation. I've also ordered my commanders to develop operational plans to strike ISIS-K assets, leadership, and facilities. We will respond with force and precision at our time, at the place we choose, in the moment of our choosing. Here's what you need to know. These ISIS terrorists will not win. We will rescue the Americans that are there. We will get our Afghan allies out, and our mission will go on. America will not be intimidated, and I have the utmost confidence in our brave service members who continue to execute this mission with courage and honor to save lives and get Americans, our partners, our Afghan allies out of Afghanistan.
Biden defended his handling of his most serious foreign policy crisis, saying ultimately it is his responsibility, while assigning some blame to his predecessor, Republican Donald Trump, for the 2020 agreement Trump negotiated with the Taliban. And now over to Australia, where Sydney's COVID-19 cases slightly eased today, but still hovered near record levels. The Australian federal government looks to press states to stick to a nationwide lockdown until the country reaches a 70 to 80% vaccination rate, something that is not likely to happen before November. New South Wales recorded 882 new cases, most of them in the state capital, Sydney, down from the record 1,029 on the previous day, as officials struggle to quell the Delta outbreak. 2 new deaths were also reported.
Last 24-hour period, we had 118,000 tests, which is increasingly a good number, and 882 cases of community transmission. 2 people lost their lives overnight, and we extend our condolences to their families, a male in their 60s, a male in their 90s, both with underlying health conditions, and both with just 1 dose of the vaccine.
The National Cabinet, a group of federal and state leaders, will meet later in the day against a backdrop of concerns by some states given the persistently high daily infections in Sydney, even after 2 months under lockdown.
If you start off with 0 or very low case numbers, eventually those case numbers will rise, because that's the way Delta works. But so long as you have high rates of vaccination, COVID safety plans in place, good information to the community on what they need to do to stay protected, we can show the rest of the world how we can have a managed way of life back to normality without seeing those high rates of hospitalisation that we've seen in other parts of the world if we do it in a managed way. And I'm so confident we will do that in New South Wales. It has been a hard time. It's been a very confronting time to change the way we think about COVID. We've been used to having 0 or small number of cases for a long time, and now we're having to confront what living with COVID is like.
So far, 32% of people above the age of 16 have been fully vaccinated, and based on current rates, Australia should hit 80% by mid-November. Australia's expert vaccination panel today approved the use of vaccines for children aged 12 to 15. And finally, the European Union took preparatory action today to reinstate COVID travel restrictions like quarantine and testing requirements for unvaccinated citizens of the United States and 5 other countries, according to 2 diplomats who spoke to Reuters. The decision is expected to be made public on Monday, should no EU country object to the plans. According to EU sources, Brussels has started a procedure to remove the United States from a list of countries whose citizens can travel to the 27-nation bloc without additional COVID restrictions. The non-binding list currently has 23 countries on it, including Japan, Qatar, and Ukraine. But some of the 27 EU countries already have their own limits on U.S. travelers in place. One diplomat said other countries that would be removed from the safe travel list were Kosovo, Israel, Montenegro, Lebanon, and North Macedonia. The list is compiled on the basis of the COVID-19 situation in each country, as well as reciprocity. Despite EU calls, the United States does not allow European citizens to visit freely, and the bloc has been divided between those pushing for equal treatment and those more reliant on tourism and reluctant to restrict U.S. travelers. As always, thanks for tuning in this evening, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend.